in Baltimore, but my family's originally from Calvert County. I worked about 20 years in Lexington Park at Navarre, so I've done the whole Tri-County area. So, and my family finds it funny that I'm in Southern Maryland. I live in Southern Maryland because as a kid, going to the great grandparents' house, that was not always fun from going from the city to the county. So they find it funny that I now live in Southern Maryland, but it's all good. And I love being down here. So one of the things is, as teacher said, that we met through, actually, I was unemployed. I had my contract that I had at Navarre ended, and I started with Job Match, and that's how I found her, and she was very helpful for me. So I know the good work that she does. During that process, I read this book. It was called The One Thing. And here I was. I had been unemployed for probably about 9 months at that point. And I read this book about the one thing, and you're thinking, yeah, the one thing, what does that mean, right? So it's a misnomer because it's a one thing about a lot of things. So I read the book, fell in love with the book, contacted people right away. They were starting a new training program to train the first 50 trainers to certify in the one thing. Here I am, unemployed, didn't know what I was doing, had to borrow my husband's credit card, go to Texas, Austin, Texas, and get certified. It was the craziest thing I'd done. I had never done Uber, and I didn't have money to be renting a car and all that kind of stuff. So that was my first Uber experience, all that kind of thing. So I went out on the limb, and it was the right thing to do because the one thing has ultimately changed my life. And I'll talk to you about it through the process of this presentation. So I'm going to share my screen here. Can you see the screen? Are we there?
No, no.
Okay, let me go back to here and make sure that. How about now? Can you see it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so as I said, the one thing is the surprisingly simple truth behind extraordinary results. And the results are extraordinary and in different ways. The one thing covers basically your whole life. So we talk about big ideas with the one thing, the questions that we ask, and people often hear about it's the questions that are asked and the answers that you get from it that make your life powerful. We talk about the 6 lies that we tell ourselves that stop us from being successful. We're going to talk about going small and deep. So often we think about big goals and stuff like that when we talk about goals, but in order to get to the big goals, you got to chunk your way through. So you got to go small before you can get to the big goals. We talk about a little bit about iceberging, meaning that when you see an iceberg, you see the top of it. But what's holding up that iceberg is all the work that went underneath. We'll talk about that briefly. And moving from E to P, which is from entrepreneurial to purposeful, and it's not just in the business sense, but in life, from going from knowing by just what you only know and whatnot, and trying to learn what's the best. And we'll talk about the 4 thieves of productivity. When I talk about the focusing question, there's 7 areas of your life that's important. And you ask this question, what's the one thing you can do such that by doing it, everything else will be easier or unnecessary? And you ask that about your spiritual life. Ask that about your physical health. We ask it about our personal life. We'll ask it about our key relationships. How about the job we have? If we have a business, we can ask it about that. And finances. So those are the 7 areas. The one thing I found interesting about the one thing is when you work with the areas that you need to fortify in your life, some of these areas we work on just kind of naturally, and some of them we need to focus. So when I started doing it, I just started to going around the circle to learn the mastery of it. So for the spiritual life, found a new church home to go to, my physical health. I had some serious health issues. I have multiple sclerosis, got it over 25 years ago. first affected my eyes. I couldn't, my eyes worked singularly but not together for about 2 months. Then nothing much happened after that, after I healed from that. And then almost 20 years later, I got to the point where I couldn't walk, and I couldn't walk for 3 years. So physical health obviously became some, that's changed. I can do all the things. I golf, I dance, I do all kinds of stuff all over again. My personal life, and I ask often people, you ask people, who are you? And the first thing you'll say, if you ask a wife or mother, you say, I'm a wife, I'm a mother. No, I'm not asking what role you're playing at this juncture in your life. I'm asking, who are you? And often we have difficulty answering those questions. If you're a husband, a father, you'll say those kinds of things. No. Again, who are you? And who, once everybody leaves home, you have the empty nest or whatever it is that's going on in your life. If you are an accountant, that is not who you are. That's the job that you do. So we like to look into that part of our lives. Key relationships, what key relationships mean to us. And often, especially as a baby boomer, growing up, a lot of the parents in the household had to work, or at least maybe the father had to, he worked, and he worked a lot to take care of the family. And he missed out on a lot of growing up. So you got to look at that. Those relationships need to sustain you. We found out, 20, 30 years later, that the kids didn't really even know you. And now you creating relationships with your kid adults. So you could have looked at that earlier, but you didn't know. So you didn't know what you didn't know. How about your job? There's certain things in your job you may need to do or want to do better to help fortify that position in your life. If you have a business, you have things that you want to do. And obviously financing. I've done really good at the feely, touchy-feely side of things with spiritual, physical health, personal life. I'm struggling on the financial side, like most people are during this coronavirus world we're in right now. But I got focus on that as well. So what we talk about is truth is the truth, even if no one believes it. A lie is a lie, even if everyone believes it. And we've looked at that, and sometimes in life, it's not the reality that holds us back from achieving the things we want. It's the lies that we see as truth that get in our way. We'll tell ourselves, well, I can't do it. Nobody else in my family's never done it. No, that's not true. So we got to look at the things that we consider true, dissect them, make sure it is truly true. So with that, because there's 6 lies that we tell ourselves that prevent us from being successful. Some of these will shock you, and we'll talk about that. But I'm going to start here with this video. I want you to pay attention to this. The same woman on both sides, both right and left. And when you see how her life goes, that's how we can look at the door on the left. She has a do not disturb. The woman on the right, her door is open. Everybody's coming in. So, teacher, can you start the video for us?
I just need to request control.
Oh, I got to give you the control. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Oh, sorry about that. And
Here we go.
you got it?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so let's rock and roll.
Have you ever wondered, if everyone has the same number of hours in a day, why do some people seem to get so much more done than others? Are they putting in longer hours? Are they not taking vacations? Are their personal lives suffering? The truth is, it's not that we have too little time to do all the things we need to do. It's that we feel the need to do too many things in the time we have. The people who achieve extraordinary results don't achieve them by working more hours. They achieve them by getting more done in the hours they work. At home or on the job, Distractions lead to poor choices, painful mistakes, and unnecessary stress. Success comes when you can honestly say that you're meant to be where you are right now, doing exactly what you're doing. Identify what matters most to get the results you seek and give it your undivided attention, because at any moment in time, there can only be one thing. What's your one thing?
Okay. Now with that, let me make sure I got this back up. With that, you saw that the one, she had a door open, everybody's coming in. That's the world we used to live in, but even at home, you sometimes have to put a stop to people coming and to going. So like I have here on my, and I think I just started that again. Sorry about that in. So what I had to do, and it comes with comes with the book, the one thing. I don't know, can you guys see this? It's like a door knocker thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it comes in the book, and you put it on the door, and it says, in case I can't say no, this sign will have to do it for me. The other side says, do not disturb, I'm working on my one thing. So my husband knows if I have that on, that leave me alone. And it's funny, so we've been working out the whole thing. So he does things. He's a yard guy. He loves his yard and stuff like it. So he don't have a door to put it on. But when he's working on, it's coming to be that time of year for all whatever guys do with their yards, that I know I got to leave him alone so he can do his yard. And he takes so good. We are a corner house, so we got that house that everybody got to see. It's got to be decent when you come in the neighborhood. So he takes that very seriously. So that's his one thing as far as what he does. He's actually a service disabled vet, so he's retired and whatnot. So that's how he does what he does. Now, I'm going to get back to the content. Okay, so what we do is what we've learned. The first lie we're going to talk about that we tell ourselves is everything matters equally. And we say that, and we make lists and stuff like that. And what they found out is that everything doesn't matter equally. And sometimes we put stuff on our list. Say we got we got an important something we have to do, paper, you're in college, or a report you got to do for work, and you got to get it done, and you know you got to get it done, but you have that on the same list that you got to go to the grocery store, you got to go to the kids' soccer game, you got to do all those things are on that list. So they don't matter equally, because say if you don't get that report, you may lose your job. So it does not have the same weight as you got to go to the laundry. And I like to think about the time. Sometimes you go out and you like with the area we live in, especially in Waldorf. Sometimes you go into shopping. You may be going across the bridge just to get some because you like to go to a special store or something like that. Think about that day when that person, what was it, 10 years ago, when the guy decided he wanted to jump off the bridge and we were stuck on that bridge for 6 hours. Just think, had we done our one thing before and gotten it out the way, that would have been not as big a problem as if you were stuck on that bridge and you might have been up all the rest of the night once you finally got home. So you got to put in proper perspective what is on that list. And then so you narrow that list down. What they also discovered is the 80-20 rule of Pareto's principle. What that says is that really you get 80% of your results that you want from only 20% of the effort. So think about if you had 20 things on your list, then you get that down, you get 20% down. Now you down to 5, now you get 20% down, now you're down to 1. So that's how you break it down to get to. You look at it, and they found out something interesting with the 80-20 rule is you look in your closet, and I guess we've been looking in our closets quite a bit with this stay-at-home stuff, and there's so much stuff in the closet that really we never really didn't wear, and it's like we really seeing that the 80-20 rule. And that even at home now, you're probably wearing the same, pretty much same clothes, because you're not going anywhere, and you don't have a need for them, but you'll have a need for them again at some point. So, but think about that when you're going through your stuff. What are the 20% of the clothes that I really need? And they can be useful and helpful for people who need those kinds of things. So number two, multitasking. I told Wendy that I was going to shake up her beliefs about that one. Multitasking is not a real thing. It's basically an urban myth that we were told that you could multitask. Yes, can you do two things at once? Yeah, we can chew gum and walk at the same time, but our brain aren't able to focus on more than one thing at a time. Just like this guy's got his phone in his hand and his tie in his bowl of soup because he wasn't paying attention. So what happens is that what you do is you may do multiple things, but how well did you get them done? And now it's really, I tell people, don't put that on the resume that you're good at multitasking, because there are some people who actually know that when you say you're good at multitasking, that means you're doing a lot of stuff, and then I got to question how good are you at getting stuff done. So you want to talk about how you can serially task, how you can get things done, that you are in, you can plan out your day to say that I can get a lot of stuff done during my day, but it's based on planning and me building on what needs to be done for the entire day. Okay, now line number three, a disciplined life. So if we got enough discipline, we can get it done. Me and my husband had this conversation all the time because he chips are his. He don't have any discipline with his chips. So we often talk. I say, man, you just do not have. Every time we bring these potato chips, and you bring it in for the game, but if you get them before the game, and the game's not on the 4, and I bring them in at noon, they may be gone by the game because you have no discipline. But in the real rest of the world, real life situation, discipline in itself is something that you have to train to do. It's not something that easily comes by, and it can make a difference, but you really schedule that as part of your life. Willpower. This is a big one. Willpower is always on will call. We always think if we got the discipline, again, that we can have the willpower to do whatever we need to do when we want to do it. But here's a cheat sheet on this screen, is you are what you eat. So if you don't eat right, sometimes you eat too much sugar, you might be overwhelmed, you don't eat enough of it, you don't get the right nutrients and vitamin stuff, your willpower will go down. Have you done that first things first? I don't know if you've heard the book, Eat the Frog. That means do what you have to get done, the most hard thing to do that you need to get done, eat that first, do that first. So do the first thing first and make it a habit. So what you want to do is create habits around things that you do. Like right now, one of the things I added to my one thing spiritually is I hadn't read the Bible from cover to cover since my college days. I went to college in Wisconsin, and I took theology and psychology or something like that, and decided I was going to double major in that. That was kind of crazy, but that was the last time I read the Old and New Testament. So this year, on my one thing for spirituality, I decided to read the Bible from cover to cover. And I went and found a reading list, and I'm on day right now, 80, I think it's like day 89. I started on December 3rd. I will finish December 3rd of this year. And it's been interesting because even like I said, I read it before. I was even thinking about majoring in it at one point. There's a lot that I didn't remember, and I was like, oh, that's kind of deep. But I read it at 19, and when I read it at 65 now, it's a different read. So you always want to be able to do the things that you want to do, but you have to sometimes adjust those things based on where you are in life. So as I was talking about willpower, if you understand willpower is based on you physically and mentally. So where is your power? Where do you get the power to do what you need to do? You wake up, you're full of energy. For a year, I woke up at 4:30 and worked out. First thing I did was I would first thing I would do, I had my stuff in the bathroom, in my master bathroom, and I had my alarm clock that would go off, and I had to get up, turn that off, turn the light on. That was the habit I had to make, because if I don't turn the light on, I can go back and crawl back in bed. I had to turn the phone off because didn't want to wake up my husband at 4:30 in the morning because he was not part of my program. That was not his program. He was more of a 6 or 7 kind of guy. And so with that, I would get up at 4:30. I would do some reading, some devotional stuff with scripture, stuff like that. I would do my workout. After that, I was up and alert, and then I would do any writing, reading, or anything that I needed to do. By 10 o'clock, I was pretty much done anything I needed to get done, and it was a great feeling, actually. So I could tell that my willpower was definitely best for me at 4:30 in the morning. I'd always said, I'm not a morning person. I can't do that. I can't do that. But because I chose to make it a habit, I did and was able to do it. And I actually used my Facebook family as my accountability. You always need somebody else there to help you. So, and it was funny because if it was mornings that I didn't do it, I would get hits from people on my posts. So what's going on? You okay? So it kept me motivated. It kept me going. So you don't always have to have somebody physically in your space to be your accountability partner. It could be somebody you just pick up the phone and say, I'm gonna call you every morning or every afternoon when I'm doing what we talked about doing. Now, this whole thing, I don't know if you've ever heard of this marshmallow test. And there's a video out there on this poor little kid. What they did was, it was in the late 60s and early 70s, a researcher decided that he would torture some 4-year-olds at Stanford University. They had 500 kids, and what they did was they bring them in a room, they put a marshmallow, a big marshmallow on their plate, and was that when the person comes back in the room, if they haven't eaten it, and they could eat it anytime they wanted. If they hadn't eaten it, they would get 2. So they got these kids go through all kinds of torture trying to not, because they wanted that second one, but can they, it's just like somebody will say that I can give you $100 right now, but if you can wait a year, I'll give you 1,000. And because of people's programming, if they live in a scarcity world, which they found out later that's kind of because most of the kids that they did this with were fairly well-off kids, so they didn't have some of the same feelings about waiting and not trusting that they would ever get what they was promised. So this was a really interesting test, and teacher was telling me that there's a new one going on right now. So. And you can search on marshmallow test on YouTube and find it and see this kid. You'll see it's kind of hilarious as he tries to figure out different ways to make himself not. He eventually succumbed to it. So, but they found out what they thought they found out was that the ones that didn't have the willpower didn't, because they followed them through life through college, that they didn't do as well on their SATs, that they didn't stick to diets, those kinds of things, because they determined that they did not control their willpower. But they did find out that there was other things that went along with that, so it's not as conclusive as they thought it was. So lie number 5 is a balanced life it's an urban myth. People these days talk about achieving a balanced life. If my life was more balanced, I'd be happy. That's what they believe. But what they found out is, first of all, balance is something that's not so easy to attain. And if you look at a ballerina, when you see stories of ballerinas on their toes and they look poised, they look perfectly still, but inside their bodies, the body is going because it's counterbalancing is what it is you do. So you make sure that you are keeping control of everything around you. So there is no real such thing as just a straight balance. You stand there and you could stay on there and be totally balanced. No, you're doing some counterbalancing is what that is. And lie number 6, big is bad. They always tell you don't be going for too big a thing. They even had a song about it. TLC, don't be searching for waterfalls. Stick to the rivers and the lakes that you used to. No, you should look for big things. But can you go for the big thing all at once? No, you do little steps to get you to those big things. So what is your big, hairy, audacious goal? What is it that you want to do? And you can do that in the different areas of your life. You can determine those are the things. Is it that, I want to be fit to the point where I can run a marathon, or is it that I want to be a bodybuilder or something like that? Because I've seen lots of pictures lately. They have pictures of people 80 years old, one 80-year-old person that is built like a 30-year-old and a 20-year-old, and then the other 80, like the 80 that year old that we see in our mind of what it should look like. But what happens is, if you identify that big goal, you do the little steps. And often with weight and dieting, we will say, oh, well, I need to lose 50 pounds. Well, no, how about I need 1 pound a week? If we do that, there's 52 weeks in the year. At the end of the year, you've made your goal. So it's how you think about these things. So you can think big. You just got to do it, make it in small pieces. So you always want to think, like I said, small things, beginnings. You've ever seen the domino run? Because the one thing talks a lot about lining up your dominoes. So each domino is like your one thing. If you line it up properly and you click it over, you'll see that run, and it will run very smoothly through. Just like small things, it's like the butterfly. It starts out like a caterpillar, but it grows into a beautiful butterfly. So big, beautiful things can start small and you can also see these like domino runs. They all over YouTube as well. They've had some amazing ones. There's another thing about the domino is that what they determine is that for each domino, you can make a bigger domino that is 1.5 times bigger, and it will knock over. So it could go as far as, if you started with a 2.5 inch domino, if you lined up every domino the next 1.5 size longer, it could go as high as the Eiffel Tower even, and that 2.5 domino could knock over that other domino at the end that is tall as the Eiffel Tower. So think about starting small. These are we all know these companies, and they started in people's garages. So they started small. Amazon, Hewlett Packard, HP, Google, these household names, Apple, and Disney. They all started in different people's garages. And that's why we got to really realize that, no, we're not going to come out and be a Google out the box. But if they could do it, we could do it. That's the other thing you got to recognize, is that if somebody was able to do it, yes, you in fact are able to do it as well. It's just you got to figure out how it best suits you in your life. And you also want to have your whole life. That's why I love the one thing, because it allows you to have my whole life. So what we're talking about mostly is focus. Follow your dream, organize your team, that's your support, commit to the plan. You got to always have a plan, because if you fail the plan, you plan to fail. Utilize your mentor and your support team. Suspend your disbelief, because often we are our worst critics. Oh, I can't do that. I should never do that. And I've had a kind of interesting life in that grew up in Baltimore and whatnot, and nobody in my family had ever. I was the first one to graduate from college in my family. I went to college in Wisconsin. Ripon, Wisconsin was my freshman year. Um, and it was crazy because my mother always told me I was going to college. See, my mother had to drop out to help her family growing up, so she was determined that one of me or my sister was going to go to college. My sister went off and worked, and I was the one that had to do that for my mother. I really hated that she made me do that. But she didn't tell me how I was supposed to go. She didn't tell me how I was supposed to pay for it. So I just knew I was supposed to do it. So I found a school in Wisconsin that needed some people to come from other areas, and that's how I got some financial aid to be able to do that. So Now, nobody could have told me that that was out there, but once you know what it is you want to do, things kind of fall in place and fall in plan. So I did that for a year. It was an interesting year in Ripon, Wisconsin, one of the valleys of the Jolly Green Giant. And it was a very interesting time to be in the Midwest during that time. So, and I'm still friends with my freshman year roommate. We actually talk all the time. I'm one of those people that I was kind of Facebook or social media kind of connected person long before they was. I'm still friends with most of my friends that are still around that I can talk to that since I was 5, 6, 7 years old. I just recently had an amazing experience because the person that gave me my break in technology, because my company, I owned an IT company for over 25 years, and I was a government contractor. The person that gave me my break, I was a receptionist because I had graduated from college and I had a mass communications degree. I was going to produce and direct television shows. Yeah, that happened. So what was I supposed to do? I had to work. I got married 2 weeks after I graduated from college. My husband was in geography, so we had to be in the Maryland area, um, so he could find a job. I had to find a job, so I became a receptionist at the firm that he started working at. There was a job in the Washington Post because remember y'all, that's how we found jobs back then. They didn't post that job on the billboard at the office. So, but I saw it in the Washington Post. So I went and found the guy who had the job. He was looking for a junior programmer. My background was the soft skills. He said if I went back and got my computer science degree, that I could have a job if I agreed to that. So I did, and I went back and got my computer science degree while working with him. I was learning programming while working with him and getting my degree. And I really got tired of college. So I was just like, oh man. So I had to go to him. I said, his name is Jean-Jacques Mouillet, French guy. And I said, JJ, we don't have the money. I can't finish my degree. I could have probably found it, but I was trying not to do it. And he took me in his office, pulled out his checkbook and wrote a check. I had no choice but to go finish that degree. I hadn't talked to JJ in 40 years. Last week, I got to call JJ and I said, JJ, you just don't believe how much you changed my life. And he said, no, you did all the work yourself mostly. And I said, no, JJ, that's not really what happened. He said, no, you needed a little nudging. I said, no, I kind of needed a lot of nudging. And I just wanted to be able to thank you. Because often we miss those opportunities to thank people that shaped and changed their life. So I've been doing that a lot. That's the one thing with the COVID experience that I've learned is that I can reach out. I hooked up with some people. I worked down in Texas. I had gotten a job to write some software for the space station. And just after I got the job, the Challenger blew up. That put a halt to a lot of the work that I was going to be doing. I had moved to Texas because we were working down at Johnson Space Center, and I had to move back 6 months later after I had moved there, and that was that that moved me to a company that was a minority firm, an 8A. I had never heard of an 8A firm, um, and from that, it was one of the it got its government contracts. So that's how I learned about government contracting. And again, that's because I already had the technology background. I'd been doing stuff. So it's kind of amazing how the little things that fall in place, and if you're paying attention, you see how they work out for you. And there's no way that the kid in Baltimore growing up could have ever imagined that she could have done the stuff. I didn't know anybody who owned any kind of major businesses. Yeah, my grandmother had kind of like she had a snowball kind of thing going on in the neighborhood, that kind of stuff, but no real kind of business kind of scenario that you could think of. So the fact that I ran a business for over 25 years and got government contracts that I didn't even know that those things existed, but the stuff shows up in your life. And it's kind of when you're paying attention to your life, those kinds of things happen. There were times when I wasn't always paying attention. I'm on my third marriage, so I clearly wasn't doing that key relationship thing all the time. But I think I found the right one this time, and we're doing the right thing. And so we build in that time in our day, took the TV out. That was the one thing in the key relationship took the TV out of the bedroom. We got TVs enough around the house that we don't need it in there. So we have that built-in time to talk. And ladies, you know, when you talk to a guy and you say, honey, we need to talk, he's looking for that battle. He's going, oh, what did I do? What are we going to argue about? I never have to do that because it's built into our life that those talk kind of things, whether just general talking, just kind of shows up in our life. So I know that I'm going to have that time to be able to have those kind of conversations if we need it. And so there's nobody defensive because it's just part of our normal life. It became part of our habit. It was the one thing in our relationship that if the one thing, that one thing that could change our life, it did. Just like spiritually, with me reading the Bible and stuff like it, it's helping me through this time. Like I'm sure for a lot of you with the COVID thing going on and everything else going on in our world, that those kinds of things help. Personally, I have I played clarinet as a kid growing up, and so I could read music and stuff like that. And 20 years ago, I brought a keyboard and I was going to teach myself how to play. Well, that keyboard's sitting there for 20 years. Well, now I'm teaching myself how to play. I can read music, so it makes it easier. So it's kind of like, it feels like the little building blocks were placed in my life that kind of held me over, is holding me over through this period right now. So just look for those kinds of things. I became a vegan, so the health stuff is coming on. And with that, I got to learn how to cook. So those are new things that I'm learning how to do. I get to fill my day in good kind of ways. I have my home office here. I also help veterans get their verification for them to do a business with the government. And I'm posted on the veterans website. So if you look for the Maryland area that anybody needs some support in that kind of area. So I just find different ways to fill my time. And with that, that's a volunteer thing that I'm doing, helping the veterans do that. So everything, it makes you appreciate life a little differently, and you can do things a lot differently. So what we find out is that people often are busy, and like I say, so are ants. So just being busy don't mean you're productive. We found that 28% of the average workday's productivity is lost to distractions. People coming by, you go into, with us being home, we may decide, oh, I got to do laundry, so let me go back. I got to fix the dinner and stuff like that. If that's not part of the plan to getting your one thing for whatever you're working on done, that can hold because it'll be there for you. So you got to figure out how to manage the one thing process. So just what we're on a journey. And 20 years from now, we'll be more disappointed by the things that we didn't do than by the things that we do. So let's throw off all our refrain and stuff like it, like Mark Twain said, let's just explore, dream, discover. And that is dream, even though it says dream. I see that. So we want to dream big. No one knows your ultimate ceiling. We can often say because other people that we know never did something or such a thing, that's why we know that we can't do it. That's not true. So like I was talking to my husband about this last night. I was saying he grew up in West Virginia, and I said, had you stayed in West Virginia, he grew up in a coal mine camp, said, would you have leave the stuff that you've been able to accomplish? And he's traveled the world because he chose, once he came up here, he chose to go into the Marines. So he's a Marine vet, and he was able to travel the world. He would have never gotten that experience. So because of that, he could see stuff that he would have never seen. And a lot of his friends that are still there, they've never left the area. So sometimes it's just that stepping out and seeing something that you just, I believe that when something comes to you, it comes to you for a reason. And people often ask me, so Pam, how did you do that? Why did you do that? And I said, because it came to me. It didn't come to you, it came to me. So I must supposed to do something with it. Because I believe the present that we talk about, the present is God's gift to us. What we do with the present is our gift back to him. So we got to look at the stuff we're given. We got to act bold and don't feel failure. Because failure is a lesson learned. It's not like what was Thomas Edison said, he didn't fail 10,000 times. He just learned 10,000 ways not to do it, and he kept doing it. So when he was being interviewed, the guy asked him, "So what would you be doing if you hadn't succeeded?" He said, "Well, I wouldn't be talking to you. I'd be still trying." So that's how we got to do is don't be a failure. Failures are lessons learned. So what is your big, hairy, audacious goal? I love this guy. Sorry, guys. I just love these little guys. So I have to share it. So, but that's the thing that's out there. It can be a little scary looking, Candy, but you got to know that that's not what you got to be scared of. You got to bring out in you what can accomplish that big, hairy, audacious goal. So, like I said earlier, we would talk about this iceberging. The iceberg is like you see is what people see up top, and what people don't see is all the stuff at the bottom there. The focus, don't see the sacrifices, don't see the tears, don't see the determination, don't see the time spent. So you discover what happens on the way to fulfillment is doing all these things. Discover your big why. Why are you doing it? Why do you want to do it? And those things are what makes you get things done. So absent an answer, pick a direction. Where do you want to go? So in the process of moving forward, you go from E to P. Like I said, the entrepreneurial to purposeful. And what we'll give out the slides here. I guess we can send this to you. So because I'm going to open it up to have questions that you guys have. But entrepreneur is just to say, entrepreneurial is saying that, yeah, I can do this because entrepreneurs do all kinds of stuff and they get excited and they do, but they do what they know. But in order to create the big business, you got to be purposeful. You got to say, I don't know everything. And what happens is when we accept the fact that, yes, I can be the own and control the business, but I don't know everything. You know what you know. You know what you don't know. So I don't know accounting. I don't know the legal stuff. I'll hide it. But the unknown unknowns is what gets you, especially in the government space, because there's a lot of rules and regulations that you don't know. So I'm going to go through these here. So here are the four thieves of productivity. Inability to say no. That two-letter word is hard. Sometimes you feel kind of guilty if you got to say no to something. But if you feeling guilty about it because one of the things you need to know is you can't give your best self to it if you having doubts and fears and stuff like that with it. So you can say no. You just got to learn to say it in a way that's not hurtful. Because oftentimes you just say, no, you don't want to do that. Say, no, I can't do it right now, but I can do it later. Can I get back with you? So we got to learn how to say no. We got to, the fear of chaos that, everything's going to go crazy and stuff like that. And you get order and stuff in your home office if you got to work from home. You got to take care of your health and the environment. You need an environment to support you. So your family and your friends need to recognize that this is something you're going for yourself. And this is where the idea of the one thing came from the gentleman that did the book, The One Thing, Gary Keller from Keller Williams and Jay Papasan. They are the ones that wrote the book. So Letitia, can you click on this? Because this is a quick video and we'll be wrapping it up.
All right. A moment.
You still have it? Or I need to give it back to you.
And the second it's up, she's going to get back into her spaceship and fly away for eternity. Did you do it?
She a redhead?
I think you are one ahead. So let me see if I can get you back to where we need to be. See, that might be it. Okay, let's see if you got it. There you go.
Just let me know if everyone can hear it.
We're not hearing it.
No, Don.
Okay. One moment to unshare my screen and reshare it again. One moment. Let's try this again.
Just one thing. One. Do you know what the secret of life is?
No, what?
This.
Your finger?
One thing. Just one thing.
That's great, but what's the one thing?
That's what you gotta figure out.
Okay. So that's what you guys got to figure out. What's your one things? And you'll find that it's quite an exciting kind of thing to go through. And any questions?
All right, we want to be able to open up the floor to any questions that anyone may have. It looks like Glenn, you posted something.
Yeah, you asked what's our one big hairy, or what is your big, hairy, audacious goal?
Uh-huh.
Would you like to go ahead and share that?
Sure. So the reason I haven't been actively with the group is that I've been busy working on my organization and business, and so I'm actually really in a busy time right now. But I thought this was such a good presentation that I needed to be part of it. So get something out of it. But my BHAG, or big, hairy, audacious goal, is through my business organization and business to be a recognized and sought after leader in the promotion of organizations, agencies, and individual clientele that align with our values, and ultimately through these efforts to effect significant positive justice reform changes in the U.S.
Sounds beautiful.
Sounds
So,
really good.
and I am a small business consultant, and so I help in that space. So, Letitia can give you my information.
Wonderful.
So you see, I tell you, stuff shows up, doesn't it? It's kind of weird, isn't it?
Is there anyone else that would like to share? Any questions or comments about the presentation today?
Yes, I thought the presentation was very informative. Thank you so much for sharing. I got some tips that I was just thinking about yesterday. I had a business opportunity open to me, and some questions that I had, you answered them. But I'm going to get your information offline from Letitia because I have some specific questions that I have to ask. But thank you. This checked off like most of my list.
Good. Glad to hear it. And I'll send out a link to, there's a PDF version of book that you can get. So, because I know everybody's trying to watch what they spend during this time. So it is online, and I'll send out that to anybody who's interested in that as well as a presentation, like I said. Because like I said, I lost my mind with this thing. You know, when I first saw it, I was just like, oh my God, this is something crazy. This is so real. So I had read the book because it was the book we were told to read in the class. Then I got the audible of it, And for people who I wanted to hear it, I got the CDs. So and I gave it to my friends so they could use it and read it, stuff like that. But it was just like, just such an amazing thing. And it really, I'm sure that it's also helped me stay focused through this time. And me and my husband, we both got these same kind of ideas now because he has to listen to me all the time now. So, but through this COVID thing is we learned how to separate out, keep our lives the way we want to get more moving. And he goes to his little man cave and does what he does during the winter months. And then the summer, he's out in the yard. I'm in my office. Like I said, I'm playing keyboard back there. He's forced to listen to my skills. I actually had to force my sister one day. I said, you had to listen to me learn how to play clarinet. You're going to listen to me learn how to play piano now. So, and I just find different ways to say, because there's always more stuff that we need to know. And like I said, as a vegan now, I mean, I'm one of those weird people that became a vegan overnight. I watched a movie, What the Health? And I was cooking filet mignon that evening, and I threw the filet mignon in the trash. Yes, I did. And then we gave any meat and stuff we had. We went to a women's shelter and gave them the meat and stuff like that and the food. And so we've been doing it for 5 years. And everybody said, well, how'd you get that West Virginia man veteran to become a vegan? And said, he want to be healthy too. Like I said, he's a service disabled vet. It helps him with his health situations as well. And with me, like I said, not having walked for 3 years, health becomes real interesting when you've had some major life issues. So, as well as this period of time, it's got to be very difficult for everybody. Like, I haven't seen my mother in over a year. My mother has Alzheimer's, and she don't know who I am anyway at this point. But these kinds of things, learning this kind of stuff, helps move me forward. And stuff like I got great grandkids. I haven't seen them in over a year. It's just like, but we use these tools. Like I said, I talked to friends I hadn't talked to in over 35 years. Me and my girlfriends did a girlfriend check-in. We sent each other a box of stuff and we talked to each other. It was amazing. So we always find, it's just like, you remember, there was a horse and buggy at one time. People learned to travel with a new vehicle. We're learning how to connect and be together with this change in the world. So we can find some good in this. There's been some awful too with the illnesses and stuff, but it's also taught us to look at things differently, which, you know. So I'm glad that people enjoy this, and you can get in touch with me to teach Wiggly, get you my information. Anybody's got any additional information they want.
I would be delighted if there's another segment to what you presented today. I would be delighted to have you back for a second part of this. I'm sure that we didn't cover
Oh yeah, I was trying
of the one thing, but I think this is really beneficial during this time, and if we just really broke down the one thing a little more, that it would help everyone. I know your schedule is pretty busy, but I would love to have you back in our next session. We do our motivational midday Monday sessions on the first and third Monday of every month at 1 p.m. So we would be delighted to have you back for our next session coming up, if your schedule permits.
And I'm sure, I think it does, and at least at this moment it does, and we can do that because it is just an hour. It could be my lunch break if nothing else. So with that, we have tools to help you figure out how to lay out your goals. So after now, I look at and I ask that question of each area of my life. What's the one thing I can do spiritually? What's the one thing I can do business-wise? What's the one thing I can do with key relationships? So I do ask that question often. And my friends, remember when I was over there, they made jokes that I was the one thing girl over there when we was at the job. So it got kind of interesting. And now all my family and friends know I'm the one thing girl too.
So I definitely appreciate you coming today and being our special guest. And I'm sure everyone that attended today really enjoyed it. And it's going to make them really think about one thing, in all those different areas. So that could be your homework.
And
Yep.
Patricia, if
We'll
I
make
may
sure we
add,
send you the. Go ahead, Salon.
I just wanted to say, how excellent the presentation was, and also, I really appreciate you sharing this for us. Most importantly, the 80-20 rule, because if I had this information back when I was working in retail, my life would have been a little bit much easier.
Hmm.
However, being in workforce development now, I think it's important that we can apply that, um, to our life now, and even with the virtual reality that we're living now, because what we need to is identify inputs that are potentially and most productive and make them, priority.
Hmm.
That way we reduce stress, in our life, and also have a much more work-life balance. So I really appreciate you sharing that with us, and thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you guys for coming. I really appreciate it. You see, I love talking about this stuff, right?
Well, again, when you're passionate about something, it comes out, and how to turn your passion into paid. Um, and this is something that Pam does, and she was graciously enough to take time out of her schedule to present this to us. So I applaud you. I appreciate you. I look forward to our next session. So as I mentioned, I'll be sending out the slides to you, the links, and to really think about, one thing in each one of those areas and bring that back when we meet again on the 15th. So I will be sending out um, an email reminder again about it. And I look forward to seeing everyone on the 15th. So I
Okay.
appreciate you all. Please stay safe and stay well, and think about the one thing. So thank you
You
so
do
much,
it.
Pam, and
Okay.
everyone, and have a wonderful day. Bye bye.
Thank
Thank
you.
you,
Thank you.
Pam.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.
Hi.